you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah. Come on.
Jake, tell me like a little bit of, is there any like part that you would want to talk about a little bit on like your journey? I think that a lot of these episodes have turned into like principle based. And so I love like the competitiveness of you of like anything I've ever done, I've wanted to be the top or like perform at the top. And then I obviously found this and it hasn't differed, but this is my legacy piece. Like, you know, I feel like there's a theme of you that you've never had a real struggle earning money. You could go get a job in a space, in an industry, start a company, whatever it is, and your work ethic alone was going to have it succeed. And then now like you're finding like your legacy piece around it, but like, is there any part of your story that you'd like to harp on a little bit or have me go towards?
No, I mean, I think that my failures is what ultimately has shaped me. My inability to learn like other people is what shaped my personality, my humor. The things that I focused on were relationship building and, you know, key relationships as it pertained to me getting through school and things like that. Like I just knew I wasn't going to be strong on the academic side. And then now, through different ways of learning, like books on tape and stuff like that, I mean, I've just been absorbing. And so that's really become the second phase of my life, is absorbing this information, like vehicles like podcast and books on tape, those types of things. I've been able to really find a passion.
Man, I don't think I would have ever believed you if you told me that you weren't the top of your class from kindergarten on. The way that you consume things, I'm envious of it. And what I'm hearing is that was a learned skill set. But now when you say it like that, I'm looking at like, man, that's a huge testament to his work ethic. Like you're just the type that puts their head down and you're not going to look up until you understand it and you get it, and it might take you longer than someone else, but no one's going to outwork you.
You there's something to be said for the kid that struggles in school, but still has an inner drive. Still wants to be the best, but he's not, because he doesn't test well. He's never going to be academic. And what he gets accustomed to is failing. And so failure does not scare that kid, right? And how many extremely smart people with great ideas out there never achieve them because they're afraid of failure. They're afraid to take that step into ownership or into a relationship or whatever the case may be. So I do think there's something to be said for that C-level C student that becomes the CEO. One, they see the whole picture typically rather than being in the weeds. They're accustomed to failure, so they take bigger leaps to get to where they are. And that's why a big chunk of your Fortune 500 CEOs are C students.
Yeah. Was there any part of your upbringing that you could reference that like kept your head in the game, so to speak, rather than letting you get distracted and go off into getting into trouble or whatever that was? Like, was there anything that helped develop that mindset around sticking with it or creating the work ethic that you have?
Well, I did get in a lot of trouble, but I still get in trouble. I enjoy getting in trouble. Life is just, it has to be fun, you know? It has to be, you have to challenge some of those boundaries constantly. But I think my father was, he was very driven in his work. He worked in the oil industry. He had a very difficult upbringing growing up in New Orleans. One of three brothers, you know, with a New Orleans father, you know, back in that day was, you know, a tough upbringing. So there was no was very strict, but he was just doing what he was taught, right, with me and the strictness. And so I do feel like there was always like a maybe like an insecurity and a constant seeking of his approval was probably a driver. You know, my mother was the rock. She was the one supporting me and helping me get through school and being there for me and those types of things. And innately, you know, when you have a tough parent, you as a child, you seek their attention. And so those were big drivers for why I was successful in football and all those things, right? Just, you know, you wonder where your inner drive comes up. You know, some people, they sleep in and wake up and piss the day away. Other people wake up and they're like, let's go. And that's just been me. I've just always been that way. I don't know what to tie it to, just inner drive and motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the biggest compliments that I could give you. Before we partnered on building what we've been building, there was a real sense of like, I'm a pretty confident guy. Like, can I keep up with this guy? Like, he just goes and he goes and he goes and he has this motor that just doesn't stop. And I liked the challenge, but there was like this, I don't know if competitive like sense of like, this guy's going to push on me and this guy's going to.
What did I tell you day one about my drive and how you should handle it?
I remember you saying, hey, there might be times you need to pull the reins back and I'm okay with that, but like, you're never going to have to kick me to go.
Yeah.
Like, your issue with me will be, you know, when to pull the reins back, and don't worry, I'll listen.
Yeah.
You know, but like, I go.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a little bit of that racehorse meets bulldog in me that's just going to head down and go. But, you know, if you're okay with that, and I think that that's the perfect compliment for us.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. You mentioned football.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big part of your life early on. Any lessons that you'd care to share with sports? I'll paraphrase a little bit for you, but if you guys can't tell, Jake Michel is a big boy. You know, you just see it, and I imagine you get those kind of questions. Hey, did you play football growing up? Like, that's a middle linebacker. I mean, Jake, at some point you look like you could be like a recovering O-lineman or something, like, you know, like you used to be 280 and now after football you lose all that weight from training to be that. But like, you're a big guy. You're also a bit of a teddy bear too. Like, you know, like you're not, you know, standoffish, but football was a big part. I know you love that part of your life. You recently, or is it upcoming, have a reunion for your college team and all that good stuff. Like, a lot of your fond memories and even getting a chance to go where you got to play. Like, tell us a little bit about where football played and your upbringing.
Yeah, I mean, it's shaped what I want to be around. So I think that I was incredibly privileged to be an athlete and a successful athlete and a part of a team that is eclectic. These are all people from different walks of life that come in to an environment with a common goal and are guided by leaders and coaches and constantly motivated and supported. I mean, they bring speakers in from all over the world, you know, like just every day there was a quote and someone's sharpening your approach to life and how to, you know, deal with certain situations. If you're floundering in your grades, I mean, there's tutors and like people that didn't have that going through school. I feel sorry for, because that was a major thing for me. The support and the camaraderie of these just amazing people, your teammates and your coaches that you're dealing with, is something that I've been really searching for the rest of my life post football. And I didn't know. I didn't really know what void I knew there was a void, but I didn't really realize it until a couple of years ago. And quite frankly, when I got into multifamily and I was around, majority alpha personalities that fired up and all going towards the same common goal, and an environment that where so many different people could work on the same project together, I started feeling some of that again. But I would say that that's probably the biggest thing that football and just organized sports has done for me.
Yeah. And share with us a little bit of the journey. Where'd it go, and like what did it lead to? And if you had any do-overs, would you change anything on how it went?
I think that looking back, I wouldn't, because what that would have meant is me banging my head up against other helmets for more years. And I definitely have residual gaps in my memory from the concussions 255 pounds hitting a fullback in the hole every other play. I mean, it's that ultimately is going to take a toll. So I'm thankful that didn't go that route. I didn't understand it then. I got picked up by the 49ers as a free agent, which is an uphill battle. You're going against people that they spent a lot of money on in the draft. So you're almost there just in case one of those guys goes down, and that didn't happen. And I end up, getting cut. I had a pre-existing injury, ankle injury, and ended up getting surgery on it, and got back in shape. It's, basically had the black plague at that point, like no one really wanted to invest. And I would say that my resume wasn't strong enough for someone really to push me along in that scenario. And so I fell in love with another form of competition, which was sales. I went into pharmaceutical sales, which was probably the top industry to be in, most difficult industry to be in. I think they took something like 30,000 applications for the position they hired me for. And so that was proud to position myself to get that role. And then, took that drive that you talk about that I had in sports and other aspects of my life and applied it to that. My outside of the box thinking, due to my inability to learn like others, helped me, achieve things within sales that others weren't able to. And so I quickly, did very well. President's Club and all those honors and stuff like that. So, but that's when I really started learning the art of communicating. They put a lot of money into training pharmaceutical reps and understanding different personalities and how to approach people differently and probing questions. And I felt like that was just something I was really good at, was instead of speaking at someone, understanding what the problem is and then applying solutions to it. And it's what we do today, right? We want to understand our clients, with our current business, our clients, and what makes them tick, what their goals are, what their pain points are, and come up with solutions for them.
Yeah, you play a really pivotal role in our business from an operations standpoint, like systems and operations. I would say is a clear strong suit that you have that sets you apart from a lot of people. Like your ability to understand what needs to get done, the most efficient way to do it, and automate, optimize, all those kind of things. But typically that person doesn't have a sales background as well. Like usually those are on opposite sides of the fence, ops and sales. Those are usually where the wars go at within companies. It's like, well, we sold it. You guys should have been able to take care of it. And operations is like, well, you didn't sell it good enough. And like you've played both sides. Can you speak a little bit on somebody that isn't quite sure what they want to do right now, where learning the art of sales or communicating at a high level would benefit them, or like where that plays in your journey?
Yeah, well, I think you've noticed that I don't derive energy from being in anything that's related to the minutia of something, right? Like getting into the weeds, reading the fine print, like all those things I'm good at, but I don't get energy from it. And so when I create systems, when I manage operations, it's usually I dig in, create it, and then delegate. And so it's really just it's my personality, right? Like that sort of extrovert type A personality is what I am, but I also know that there's better ways to get somewhere. And if we create systems around it, then we can really scale. And so that's what's worked for me. Going back to just the juggling so many different things in your head, right? That I always relied. I mean, I had the first Palm Pilot that came out, right? Like I knew that I needed to rely on technology and systems to organize the information. And so I quickly started doing that. And so CRMs and all the various processes and procedures are all things that I'm passionate about because of the tools I use to overcome, any kind of, learning struggles that I had. Related to your question about someone interested in getting into sales, it's really practice. And that's what no one does, right? It's one, not being afraid to fail, because every time you go up in front of someone and they hand you your ass because you said something stupid or pissed them off or they knew more than you, or whatever the case may be, you can't look at those as failures and don't do it again. You got to look at that. Okay, I learned this. Let's go. Let's do another one. Don't be failure to launch. And, learn your craft so that you can speak intelligently on it, and then stay within your wheelhouse. You don't have to know everything. And so, that the idea of learning your opponent is very important. And so I would say that if they don't know you're selling them, that's where you want to get ultimately, is have just an organic conversation that's solving problems.
So you get into sales, you get into a really competitive, high demand field. You're excelling at it. What's next?
Orthopedics. So I moved into device sales, but it had more operations associated with it. So we were not only good at sales and building rapport, but we were very good at organizing the surgery, being an expert on our instrumentation and our instrumentation application to the procedure. And it's a very difficult environment to be in because you're dealing with a surgeon that has that patient's life on their hands. They're relying on you to have the proper instrumentation there and the implants that you're going to be utilizing, and for you to be an expert at what you're doing. They're an expert at what they're doing, surgery. We're an expert on our application of our devices to that surgery. And it goes from having 100 physicians that I called on to having maybe 3 or 4. And so the depth of the rapport was much higher. Like one of my clients was the best man in my wedding after I did all that stuff. Like, to tell you what kind of relationship you have with the doctor, I mean, they depend on you. And so that was a very difficult industry, also hard to break into and hard to build your business. But then I started recognizing that it wasn't scalable. So I could only do a certain amount of surgeries per day, and I can only have a certain amount of relationships. Otherwise, if you picked up too much or you hired people to manage your relationships, people want you in the room. And so I just realized that was not scalable.
Why was that important to you? Scalability.
I just wasn't
Lifestyle thing? Was it you don't like having limits?
Yeah,
I could guess the answer, but I'm curious at that point in your life. Like,
I don't want my job to be the limitation of what I want to accomplish. Whether it's I want to go on vacation, I want to go make money while I'm on vacation. Like I think a big aspect of it was just an insecurity also around losing business because I didn't control it. It was basically a provider saying that you're going to be with them. I didn't like being in the surgeon's world. Like I was never going to be the alpha in that environment. And I'm an alpha. And so I didn't like being in their world. And so there was a clock ticking on that. But it was great. It taught me so much, and it was a step to where I am now, and don't regret it at all.
Yeah. If I remember right in your story, you moved for that? Like that wasn't in your backyard? Did you have to move for that position?
Yeah, but I moved to be closer to my mother.
Okay.
So
was that an option in a territory? But I mean, that seems like a part like, hey, I'm going to go move to take a position.
Yeah.
I'm now excelling at it, but I'm also not going to stay in it forever. What now? Like you're created somewhat of a life in a city. Like,
yeah, I'm innately
how do you navigate that?
A mama's boy, right? So I took a position in Oklahoma City as a pharmaceutical rep, and then transferred down to Southwest Florida to be closer to my mother and take this position. So I was living in Sarasota. I lived down in Fort Myers for a little bit. And then ultimately, the Goldilocks area for me has been St. Pete. So Tampa was somewhere I lived as well. I mean, all these places are within 100 miles of each other. So, but I felt like St. Pete's been a great fit for me because it allows me to do the things I want to do on the water, boating and diving and fishing and those types of things, but also gives me access to major sporting arenas, football, baseball, hockey, those types of things, concerts. And, Sarasota and Fort Myers a little more retiree and sleepy.
Yeah.
So
you realize my time in device sales is coming to an end. Was this like a quiet quitting period where you kind of had your eyes on the next prize? Did you kind of cut it off cold turkey? What was that transition period into your next phase?
Yeah, it was take on more and more risk, right? So I had the ability, because I owned my business as a device rep. I had my own company and I picked up lines. And as long as other lines or services didn't compete with the ones that I had the right to do that. And so I started picking up other products and services and delineating that down to reps locally and then throughout the country, and created a national sales force with a bunch of different products and services. And that moved into the pharmacy world, believe it or not. And we created a pharmacy management company and ended up with pharmacies all over the country. And that's where I got my first taste of being a CEO and having employees that relied on my decision making. And that was humbling, because what I was able to do was sales. And so I generated the business. What I didn't have the experience in doing was delivering on that business. And so we grew too quickly. We did not have the right infrastructure in place. We did not have the right process, procedures, roles, responsibilities, incentive programs, culture, you name it. And ultimately the business, failed, right? We did millions and millions of dollars in sales, and we had angry customers and clients, and service, and you name it. It was tough. I mean, it was a time when we had to, downsize our company, and we had to let a lot of people go that depended on that income for their families. It was a very depressing time. And I just vowed never to be in that position again. I vowed not to ever so-called outpunt my coverage again. So to me, it was another so-called failure, but stepping stone to what now I'm passionate about. Has made me successful in other.
Yeah, that makes sense, where you emphasize and you cross your T's and you dot your I's so much now around systems and processes, because you have an experience in your life where, you had a business that choked on success, so to speak. And oftentimes, if you don't have your operations in place, that could be the downsize rather than starvation. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how you transitioned into the world of where we met. Like, you grew some more companies, had an exit, but you're not the type to sit still as much as you like being on the water and fishing and spending time with the family. You've got a young, beautiful, growing family. I don't know if you'll ever just sit still.
Yeah.
I don't think that you have it in you. And you start navigating to, our world, multifamily real estate, raising capital, funds, the benefits of funds, those kind of things. Do you remember what it was that kind of caught your eye? Like, hey, this is my next step. This is where I'm heading.
I knew that I needed a change, right? Sit up. I knew I needed a change, and a lot had changed in my life. Now I have 4 gorgeous kids, an amazing, successful wife, and what I was doing, although successful at, wasn't filling up the cup. Wasn't filling up the fulfillment bucket. And
when I met you, I seem to recall like a company offered you a near $500,000 salary to come be their CEO. Like we're, and it didn't look like you really were even contemplating it. You were flattered for the offer, and obviously you're going to look into it when someone's just offering that type of salary to come in, do what you're good at, right? Comfortable. That would have been a really, I'd hate to call it an easy transition, but a transition I believe you would have handled comfortably. But you were set on creating more. Like, help me understand why. Like, why wouldn't you just go? I think that would be really tempting for a lot of people to go take a $500,000 salary, go turn your phone off at night, check in, W-2, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was a dream opportunity. It was with an owner and a visionary that I think the world of, who I want to work with. But it was in the healthcare space, and some of the frustrations that I had in the healthcare industry, I just was kind of over. And I had already fell in love with the multifamily space. There was a big sort of a paradigm shift. I never wanted to be, my father was in the oil industry, and I saw what this highs and lows did to him and what it did with the family. And I just didn't want to be in an environment that I couldn't control. Healthcare was an environment I could control, and we knew healthcare is recession proof, right? Oil industry is not. Big highs, big lows. I felt the same way about real estate because I attached real estate to residential, right? And that's what residential is. It's emotional. There's highs and lows, and it's feast and famine, feast or famine. And so when I fell in love and understood the multifamily, large apartment complex asset and how they were valued by the bank as a business, and based off their P&L, their profit, and some multiple of that profit, it made perfect sense. This is what I do. I can come in and control this. I can force the appreciation. I can put business plans together, and I can execute on that. Whether the market's up or down, I can do that. So I fell in love with that. I also recognize that it's not something you do by yourself. You have to have experts in every aspect of it, whether it's underwriting to your lender, to your legal team. Like, you're surrounded by people that love it too. And that camaraderie I was missing, from my days of sports was fulfilled again. And so I had gotten a piece of that, saw that, when I met you, I saw that. And it was like my wife saw it too. She went, to some of the same stuff and saw my passion for it and knew that I'd be really good at it. But then I got my dream job, CEO of a diabetes management clinic that was expanding nationally, ownership of that, and, comps and salary and all those things. And right within my wheelhouse, all the things that I had already done in the past and was really good at and knew I was going to be successful at, but I didn't love it. And we negotiated all the contracts I was about to sign. My wife, literally got the pen and paper out, and I'm sweating.
I didn't know that you were that close to that sign. I didn't realize that.
I was like, maybe I can do both. And I knew that you can't, right? And my wife is like, oh my God, Jake, what is going on? Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, why are you doing it? I was like, because I know I can do this and provide for my family. Like, this is a win. Like, there is no doubt, like, I'm going to make really good money with this and be really good at this. But it's just like, I believe in you. I support you. I think you should do real estate. And that was the inflection point. And we both had an agreement together, and we picked a timeline, right? I set an alarm in my phone. Like, if this is not going in a direction by this date, I'm out. And it's all history after that.
Your wife is an entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
Right. So there's a little bit of background, just that belief system and knowing what you guys can create together. But she's no slouch herself when it comes to running a business. And
she is a resident badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so proud of her all the time. Can't give her too many direct accolades, because then, she gives me shit for it. But no, she had a mentality when she met me that if you want to make more money, you go get a better degree or a higher level degree. If you're an LPN, you go become an RN and you'll make more money. If you're an RN, you become a nurse practitioner and you'll make more money. Like, that was her mindset, was employee mindset, hourly wage. You go and work this many hours and you leave. She didn't understand, and she was with me through all the companies that I've owned and operated and the struggles associated with all of those things. And she's like, didn't understand it, but then she started to. And, when she was working for someone else and basically managing that entire business, and decided that she wanted to go out on her own and start her own business, it was amazing. She had a vision that I didn't even know was in there. Like, I'm telling you, down to what the patient experiences when they walk into that dermatology practice. I just saw all that come to life. And yeah, I supported her a little bit, but it's all her. It's all her. So extremely proud of what she's accomplished.
Yeah, she's so great.
Yeah.
We had a guest on here, and his name's Alan, and he shared a quote. He had a similar path to you. He was in a career. He was experiencing success in a career. He'd spent a lot of time committing to getting to where he was at in that career. And inevitably, he came to and I'll paraphrase what he said, but he said that he didn't want to substitute something good for something that could be great. And that's what I hear you saying, is that by a lot of standards, what you are doing, continuing to stay in that field, going into salary plus equity position and then an emerging company that's going to go grow. Like, seems like a pretty great offer. You know, tell me why that wasn't enough. Because I don't want people in this platform feeling like there's a belief system that you need to make $1 million a year to be successful. If you haven't made $1 million inside of a 12-month period, you're not deemed successful, because that's not the case. What I love about this story is that we want to show how accessible it is if that is something that you would want. And at some point, you're going to have to make a hard decision, whether that's a fork in the road, whether that's jumping, and spreading your wings, inevitably 1 foot on the dock, 1 foot on the boat, whatever analogy you want to use, you're going to come to a crossroad. And the temptation of staying comfortable, doing what you know, staying comfortable via, listen, if you can't live comfortably on a $500,000 salary and with upside and those kind of things, like we can probably talk and
Right.
get you to a place where you could get a little bit more comfortable there. Like, why not? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but why not just go do that for a year or two at least, or 3 years, and then revisit, or like you said, do it on the side a little bit, or whatever. Like, what was the theory behind the full jump into this space?
The definition of insanity, right? Like that had been my 4th company, right, in the same industry. And I wasn't unhappy because of the money, and I felt something with you. I think that you have a vision that I could get behind. In the absence of leadership, you follow, or in the presence of leadership, you follow. But anyway, we'll scratch that. But ultimately, your vision drew me in. Like, I really believe in you and your vision. And I also recognize that you would benefit from facilitation, somebody that sees your vision and helps you realize that. And not only that, my wife knew you and was like, I support anything that you want to do with James. He's a winner. And so it all just was a culmination of that. It was the right feeling, right? Like, it in your heart that this is special. And it was just an inflection point in my life, and I had the support from my wife to take that leap. And that leap was the right leap. I know that and have proven that now. So
yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. And I agree. There's something that you taught me, and I would have people hear about our story and our connection, is that I was not looking for a business partner. I just wasn't. I had great business partners. I've learned from my business partners, but in this journey, I just hadn't had any plans. I had really great mentors in the space, business coaches, mentors, friends, all of the above, that I felt like I had enough of a support system, but I wasn't planning on having a partner. And if there's a lesson to be learned in, if you can create enough value to someone or something, what can happen there from a synergy, from, this quote around, hey, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And you showed that. Like, you just showed, like you said, like, I've got a skill set and I understand your plan and your vision. Watch what I can do to expedite that. And if you thought you were on a path before, like, watch what I bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And I played a little hard to get.
Yeah.
Right. In that scenario, thanks. I appreciate it. Best luck in your persistence and just constantly providing value without an expectation of return was, I think, one of the things that drew me to you the most was just like, yeah, this guy goes and he gets it.
Yeah, I don't think either one of us thought that it would end up here.
Yeah.
At the beginning. And I knew that we were going to be collaborating together.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Right from the start.
Yeah. But I think we both had the feeling like, we don't need another partner in our life, right? We've been good with running at our own pace, and it was pretty cool how it came together.
Yeah. You wonder, like that there's probably a whole topic on that of the difference between needs and benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you and I would have been just fine. And like you said, would have collaborated happily.
Mm-hmm.
But letting your guard down or having a little bit of a sense of humility or be willing to not get caught up in what comes into play with having a partner, and those kind of things, that if you can set those aside in the overall benefit of what 2 people can do together or 3 people can do together, or 4 people, whatever your partnership consists of, that as long as you're in alignment and have super, similar visions or exact visions, that, man, there can be some real magic happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, it was wise of you to invite me to the Entrepreneurial meeting, because that was right at the beginning. And I think that lowered our guards, because we were able to learn about leadership and making agreements with people and breaking down some of the, innate barriers that we have to causing open lines of communication. And like, just that whole experience was like, wow, we can now speak a language that will help us grow and grow quickly.
Yeah.
And the term you said, like, look, we're not looking to double what we're doing by partnering together. Like, we want to partner with each other and 10x what we can do on our own. And I think we have that.
Yeah. You're referencing something called the Create Powerful course. And there's another lesson to be said in that as well. Because one of the things that just aligned for me to just want to just, all right, I got to spend more time around this guy. Like, I need to, this is my people, is that we're having a conversation. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm actually going to be in California in Laguna de Gal at this course. Oh, what course is it? It's a course on leadership. Really? Have you been before? Yeah, I have been before. I think I said something along the lines of like, this course has had as great of impact on me as anything in my professional and personal life, that I've done, as far as like being a leader and communicating. And next thing I know, like, you just were registered for that same course, and it's not, it's a commitment, financially and time. And you were just like, that's all you needed to hear. Oh, it had a huge impact on you. You're going again? Yeah, I'm going to be there with you. Next thing you know, we're in California together. I think it was the following week or something like that. It was quick.
It was.
Whatever it was. But yeah, that's something that I love about you, is that from a learning standpoint, I don't know if a week goes by without you inviting me to a webinar or sending me an article here, or, hey, check out this. Like, do you think this would be good for us? And it's from the mindset of learning and constantly learning and learning and learning to pick up whatever we can to apply it to what we're building right now. And it's a great quality to have. Yeah. Speak to an operator and dealing with people that might not be able to keep up with you. I don't know of any specific instances in your life. Like, that's not a loaded question, or I'm looking for you to have a specific answer. But I could see somebody staying on their own and not collaborating with people because they're afraid that no one else will be able to keep up. One of my version of that would be, what aligned for me with you is that you could see what I felt like a lot of other people couldn't see. I felt alone in that. I had a vision, and I'm a dreamer, and big goals, at least for me, what I would consider big goals. And they didn't intimidate you. I felt like you're your eyesight was right aligned with mine. Like, and if you couldn't see it, you'd ask where I was looking to make sure. And like, and that was something that was special to me, is that you had a similar vision. You pushed on my vision, all of those kind of things. I could see people with your skill set, an incredible work ethic, smart, gifted, all of these things. And you get to a place where you just get closed off. Like, there's no point. No one can keep up with me anyways. Like, I'm just better off on my own. Could you speak to how you've, got over that?
Well, I don't think that way. I think that I've always have had partners or mentors in my life. I've always wanted people to witness what we're doing, like accomplish things together, like high five when we get something done, and if things are down, like we're picking each other up. And so I do think that is something that I've always had an eye on, but it has to be the right person. And it has to be a person that has a similar drive, but different skill sets. And I think that, I think that part of it was easy, right? Like with us coming together, we could see where our strengths were. Yeah. I would say that, I probably wouldn't be the same partner, if this was 10, 15 years ago. I've grown in my relationships with people and my maturity level and my bullheadedness, those types of things. And so, I'm happy with the way that I've approached this relationship. And, it's never been shut off to me. I've always wanted that. It just has to be the right person.
Yeah. We had a little bit of a brotherly bonding moment of like gratitude this week. Like you're here, we're spending time planning, recording, building our leads funnel, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a moment of like, we sat back and was like, man, I'm glad this happened. Like, look what we're creating, look what we've created. And you shared this concept of having a witness. I think it would be beneficial for others to hear. Tell me that again. Tell me that your theory of having a witness as far as collaboration, you touched on it a little bit.
Yeah. I think we, in many aspects of our life, our spouses, right? Our relationships, no one is going to have the perspective that you have with your wife, with your kids. Like growing up in that environment, seeing all the good and bad. And my goal with my marriage is us to be, lying on our deathbed one day and still talking about all the things that we've done together. And I think there's fulfillment and happiness and all of those things that come with having that witness. And all the decisions we make every single day could put that at risk. And I think it's important to value that and honor that and protect it. And the same thing with the other half of my life, right? Like this is what we're doing day in and day out. I want to do it with somebody that I want to share these moments with, and look back, 20 years from now, like, remember that, and have that witness in my life and have those fulfilling moments. We have it with our friends from high school and college. And when you get together, you just, you can talk to those types of things, and no one knows you better in those moments. So it's something that I recognize and do my best to protect.
Yeah. It's hard to explain, but man, when there's a relationship that there's a lot of just synergy and motivation that comes from a belief system, that's I think that, I appreciate that about you, is that I could come up with this concept or this deadline or whatever it may be, and you're just kind of like, great, where do we start? It just doesn't doesn't phase you, and that comes from like a belief, you know, and what we're building. And when you can find somebody that, you know, where you guys believe, like similar to, I'm sure you and Leah, that you just believe in what you're creating, and there's a lot of synergy there. Not to get too sentimental, but you know, it's been great. You took a sales background, you took it into operations with an emphasis on systems and processes. It's led you into the world of alternative investments and private placement. We now have Placement Fund 3, another $75 million fund, filling it up quick. What are you most excited for over the next 12 months, you think, for what we're building?
Yeah, there's an interesting thing going on in the large apartment complex space right now, and we're taking advantage of that opportunity. And it feels like it's easy, quite frankly, because a business is a business is a business. And because we've created the processes and procedures and the systems to evaluate these properties, we're in a unique scenario. We can come in and buy these distressed properties for pennies on the dollar. We're having our own little pseudo real estate crash within the multifamily space. 07, 08, we're having that now. And it's because there's bridge debt that was put into place 1, 2, 3 years ago when the market was doing better. Inflation wasn't so high, interest rates were half, insurance rates were half, cost of goods were half, and decisions that were made when someone acquired a business was that those things were going to remain constant, and they haven't. And so, unfortunately for those operators, they didn't make the right decision, and their funding mechanisms, like their investors, are going to pay the price for that. It's a somber excitement, but we're now evaluating properties that are undervalued, and you don't want to buy high and sell low, right? So with all the proper criteria, finding the right markets, and with this wonderful opportunity, now we're able to leverage clients and partners and their desire to be in the real estate market and take advantage of this opportunity with us, and take this large pool of money, with our $75 million fund quickly filling up, and get into this. And who knows if that's going to last 12 months or 3 years. But because we are a small, agile, nimble firm, we're able to move where the market goes and takes us. And so we're really excited about that. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, for anyone that might be listening to this that you haven't caught up with for the last 3 years or something like that and doesn't know exactly what we do, give them a screenshot of what we do and kind of who our ideal client is and what your role in it is.
So we provide our clients with a 10% fixed compounded rate of return that compounds annually. And we put that money to work and we invest that into apartment complexes. We give our clients the ability to retire on time, on a specific time. We teach them the concept of the rule of 72. If they have a fixed return and they divide that into the number 72, that'll tell them how often their money will double, how many years it'll take. So at 10%, their money will double every 7.2 years. We teach them that it's not wise to be overly weighted in the market, and that a certain portion of their retirement should be invested into real estate, and that will ultimately protect them from a market downturn when they're in the fourth quarter of their accumulation phase, right? When you're younger, you can take a lot more risk and you can weather the storm and wait for the market to come back up. But when we're already planning for our date, being in the market's difficult because of the fluctuations. And if the fluctuation is down when you're ready to go, you're going to be waiting a lot longer to be able to retire. And so we teach people, put them as an amazing vehicle. I mean, where else are you going to get a 10% compounded rate of return backed by hard assets like real estate? Yeah. So it's exciting. I know you can hear my passion in it, but we're helping people and we're teaching them.
Yeah. where do people find you? Where can people find you as they want to follow along with the journey? And you've been a little quiet on social media, but Leah's helping out with that. Dawson's helping out with that. Charlene's helping out with that. You're going to be a little bit more active on there. Where can people find you?
Theplacementfund.com. Simple as that. Click on there and schedule some time with me.
Yeah. LinkedIn, Jake Michel.
LinkedIn, Jake Michel. We've got, yeah, all of it.
Yeah. Look out for it. Podcast coming, social media ads, all the good stuff.
Yep. Free Dive St. Pete.
Well,
Instagram.
This one was Free Dive St. Pete. That's great. That's one of my favorite things, is that's one of your passions, and that's not as business related, but if you want to peek into who Jake is, man, he's got a lot of cool diving experiences, and I'm excited to participate in those over the next couple of years. Special guest on A Million Ways to Make $1 Million, my business partner, Jake Michel. Glad you're here, brother. I appreciate you, and you guys should follow along to what we're building. It's getting pretty fun.
Same here, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Daddy, you sure you know what you're doing?